So thank you so much again for being here for our literary salon. Just went over our amazing tag tools. So again, if you need to, just go to teachingartist.com. And just wanted to give a shout out, because it is Black History Month, that there is an incredible organization called Black Lives Matter at Schools that offers resources. They just finished up their week of action last week. We've done a professional development with them as well. I'll put that link into the chat, or you can follow us on YouTube to see that. And they also have curriculum for a whole year called A Year of Purpose. So please check that out. Now, I am so excited to introduce our literary salon writer, Maria, and give a little bit of a bio just before we bring her on screen for our Power Hour. So, Maria is a Brazilian-born educator and artist, and is on a passionate mission to empower individuals to become the protagonists of their own lives. With extensive experience in theater, mindfulness, and cross-cultural engagement, she weaves together the transformational power of theater, Ayurveda, and meditation to guide others on a journey of self-discovery and well-being. Maria's deep commitment to personal growth led her to become a certified chakra meditation teacher. Did I say that right, Maria? Yes. A Reiki master, Ayurvedic health counselor. And through her company, Atomic Arts, she pioneers the integration of mindfulness practices into artistic and educational endeavors, nurturing creativity and fostering well-being through arts-based activities. As I mentioned, she is part of the National Advisory Committee of the Teaching Artists Guild, and she excels in designing and implementing transformative residencies and workshops with a strong emphasis on theater, improvisation, mindfulness, social change, and mental health. I want to read an excerpt from her book, The Protagonist, which we'll be discussing today, which is entitled, You Are the Protagonist. Whether you are aware of it, you are the protagonist of your life. You are the central character in your story, and the choices you make and the actions you take shape the plot of your life. It's important to recognize that you are the protagonist of your life because it puts you in the driver's seat. You have the power to make choices and take action towards the things you want to achieve, rather than simply being a passive observer. You may even feel sometimes that you are the antagonist in your life, fated to lose. Using theater to understand these roles can help you release the idea that you are the enemy and embrace the agency and freedom that comes from being your own protagonist. I'm so excited to invite Maria.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Wonderful.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Aww. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. So my name is Maria, or Maria Teresa. You can call me either way. I will respond. So I thought, I have this little time with you here today. I thought I could just start by having this a little bit more of a background information about my why I'm here, why I wrote a book, and then I'm a teaching artist, so I want to do something a little interactive with you. So maybe you have already we're going to use it in a little bit, a piece of paper and a pencil or something that you can have near you. If not, it's absolutely okay. You don't have to write things down. You can also do it mentally. But if you have a chance and you want to grab that, we're going to be using that in a little bit. I know there are some of you in here that I know, and it's very special to see you all here. And a lot of you I haven't met yet. But as Carrie mentioned, theater is my art form in my teaching artistry. That's how I actually started with music, and music took me to theater. And then later in life, I added different tools. I got into meditation and I became a teacher and found so many connections with my art form. And then meditation later took me to Ayurveda, which, eventually all of those things led me into writing this book. So this book is called Be the Protagonist: How Ayurveda, Meditation, and Theater Can Transform Your Life. I'll talk a little bit more about the process of writing this book later, but just more of like the why. I've always seen the connections between everything that I do in life, right? But for somebody else, sometimes it was not necessarily obvious. I'm like, what do you mean meditation, theater, and Ayurveda? Like, why are those things connected and how? And so in many ways, writing this book has served as a way for me to practice making this connection accessible for others, because it was for me, and it was pretty simple in my mind. But it was a great opportunity to just let me go through this experience of reflecting on these things and writing about it. Was just an incredible way to make it clear, bringing clarity to myself so I can bring it to others. But it really came about my why in terms of, just everything that I do and how I want to serve and how do I want to impact people. And being a theater artist, and there may be other theater artists in here, I do live theater, right? That's been my thing, not film. So that's not something I got into. And, when you're doing your craft, you're on stage, you're live, people are there, they saw you. If they were not there, they missed it. Even if you record it, it's not necessarily the same, but it's meant to be there, experienced, right, in person. And to write a book for me gave me something a little more concrete as well, in terms of living a legacy of just actually I can create something that is going to live beyond me, right? And this book, is there for it, and it has opened up so many opportunities. So this book just came out in mid-November. That was just released. It's brand new. Thank you. brand new. So I'm still early in that process of being able to, share it with the world and creating workshops out of the books, and also how the book came about. There were so many workshops I had developed, and I already had a lot of those things in mind. And if you're here and you're a teaching artist, whether you see yourself as a writer or not, you are already a writer, right? You write lesson plans and curriculum, and you are in this field. You create experiences for people. And for me, this book was very much along the same line. I wanted to create an experience for people, which is also why it's full of practical exercises. It's not just a book to read about these. I call all of these things, by the way, an art form, right? So for me, Ayurveda is the art of observing life. I go into more details in the book. Meditation, the art of observing ourselves, and then theater, the art of observing human actions. Of course, we know all of these are arts and sciences are a lot more than that, but this is the focus I gave it in my book. And for me, all of these three art forms combined, all of this observation that builds our awareness, allows us to see ourselves, understand our role as being the protagonist of our own lives, right? And so for me, this book it's more than just how I want to serve people, but it's also very much about who I am as the protagonist of my life, who I've been, who I want to become, who I aspire to become as a protagonist. It's not a book about my story and the story ended, right? So as protagonists, we have many chapters in our lives, and so it's been an incredible process of just reflecting on my own life, my own narrative, and bringing this to mind so I can explain to people how I've used it, and then people can make their own connections, how they can use and apply that to their own lives. So really, it's been my why. I also, as I started teaching a lot, and I've been teaching for a long time. I've been in the United States for 20 years. And I've learned English in the last 20 years. And I also wrote this book in English, which was a pretty big deal for me. And I did it not entirely by myself. I'll talk a little bit about that later in a little bit when I mention Jason, who is here as well, who, not only my publisher, editor, but also is like my writing coach. Was incredible in this, in supporting and making this possible. But I wrote this because it was initially, it was hard for me to see myself as playing the role of the writer. And I even talk about in the book how incredible it is to be able to get to a point where we start observing ourselves as the protagonist and then looking at all the many roles that we play. Not so we stop playing the roles, but so we can enjoy playing those roles. So I have been enjoying playing the role of a published writer since November. It's a brand new role, and I look forward to playing this role many times. I already have all these ideas for future books. So with that in mind, I don't want to just be talking here. I want to actually just dive into a quick reflection with you, a quick exercise with you that I will then open up for some potential quick short conversations here. We have a short amount of time, so it's going to be a little short, but it will give you an idea of the types of exercises this book has. So I have the book right here, and I'm actually going to go to one of the pages where I have the exercise. This part is in the theater chapter, this exercise, and it's related to something I call soul questions. For me, theater has always been this, it's given me this opportunity to self-reflect, right? Naturally, right, to be or not to be, who am I? How can I serve? All of these big questions that sometimes can feel really difficult to answer, really overwhelming. But I was always the kind of kid who was thinking about the meaning of life, so it worked for me. But just gave me this opportunity to think about something beyond our daily lives or all the details of the many roles we play in life. So I'm going to invite you to do this with me. I always start by getting ourselves into a mindful place, in a different mindset. So we'll start with the breath. So I'm just going to invite you to join me. Right now, you don't need to do anything. Just make sure you're feeling comfortable where you are. You can sit where it's safe for you to close your eyes and just connect with your breath right now. And there is no particular type of breathing we're going to do, except that I'm going to invite you to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth, if you can, and make your exhalation longer than your inhalation. So just at your own time, at your own pace, just take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just focusing on relaxing your body. And you can right now bring your attention to the air flowing in and out, just to give you a point of focus. Noises and other distractions may be happening around you. Just notice and go back to the air flowing in and out. And now I will ask you a question, and I just want you to contemplate this question in your mind. You can still keep your eyes closed. The question is, what is the problem you're trying to solve for people through your teaching artistry? What is the problem you're trying to solve for people through your teaching artistry? And along those lines, how do you envision your art enriching the lives of those you teach? How do you envision your art enriching the lives of those you teach? And you're just contemplating that without judging whatever comes to you, words, images, phrases, feelings. Just notice what comes up for you. You're just observing your thoughts and feelings. What are you trying to solve? How do you envision enriching the lives of people through your art or whatever it is that you do? Now, as things are still a little fresh, focus still on those thoughts and those feelings, and slowly come back and open your eyes if you wish. And take that piece of paper and just jot down some of those notes, some of those things that came up. You can write, there's not a specific way of writing. You can write words down, you can doodle, you can write a story, a paragraph, or answer the questions. And they are right now in the screen if you need to look at them. You can see what these questions are. So take another 3 minutes just to jot some thoughts down. Take another minute or so. If you want, you can write down the questions as well, in case you want to revisit those later with a little more time. If that's a prompt that speaks to you. And I will bring us back to gallery here for a moment, just so we can open up a little bit. I know it was very brief, as I mentioned, it was very short, but I'm just curious. I would like to hear if any insights came to you, if you were surprised about your own answers, or anything you want to share about what came up as you contemplated briefly these questions. Would anybody like to share?
Go ahead, Rebecca. Thank you for raising a hand. Hi.
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
There's great questions and really helpful as I'm developing lesson plans for a residency. Right now I'm teaching grade school kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem I'm trying to solve is how to connect the distracted mind with the out of control body.
Mm-hmm.
And I envision my art enriching those I teach by stimulating play, creativity, and curiosity.
I love that. And I see what you mentioned. I'm a parent of 2 kids, and like what you mentioned in there, I think it resonated with me, not just as a teaching artist, but as a parent as well.
Yeah, right.
So I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharing. Yes.
Thank you. These are great questions. Thanks for asking them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other insights, surprises? Yes, please, Sam.
Kia ora koutou, everyone, coming in from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Oh my goodness.
It's actually not Valentine's Day here anymore. It's the 15th. So just to let you know, I'm sort of a time traveler for you.
You are in the future.
I'm in the future. Thank you so much for these provocations and everything that you're sharing. So I work mainly, I work with a range of people. I have a theatre company here, massive theatre company. and one of our people that I work with often is 14 to 25-year-olds. And the work that we do often works with personal stories, ideas, and perspectives to create theatre. So I had a range of I had this beautiful image of flinging open kind of a window, and there being the sun and the blue sky. And I guess that was, for me, as a metaphor about sort of what I hope for in the work, is to sort of to provide opportunities and choices and for people to share in that, but also more importantly, really, in a way, is for them to understand their own power as creators, creative artists, and to trust their idea and stories, and to not worry about what others think, but to engage with others. So it's not about, it's not about engage. We definitely want that, but we don't want them to be sort of so desperately worried in their heads and already judging their work. So, and they're valuable, and to know that their value as specific individual human beings is what's so gorgeous about the work. So sort of try and turn that around. So those were the things that came up for me.
Yeah, I love that, and we can see it's like completely different things that came up so far, right? Do you want to add to it, Sam? Did I cut you?
It's probably, I'll let somebody else speak, but yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for that. All I want to say is that, sometimes the answers to these questions, or the thoughts or the images, they're not necessarily concrete answers. Like these are, as we think about soul questions, we ask ourselves those questions over and over again, and sometimes we get something abstract or an image, or that, like when you mentioned the window, I saw that. I've had many instances where I contemplated these questions, and for me, my metaphor has always been a bridge. Like for me, connecting people, connecting experiences, connecting knowledge to experience, right? So that's always been the metaphor that has always come up for me. Before the language was there to answer that question, right? So thank you for sharing this beautiful metaphor. Lisa, I see your hand.
Hello. Hi from San Francisco.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for this question. As you mentioned, we look at different cycles and times in our lives, and I'm happy to be in this conversation with it. One of the things that come to mind, I'm currently working with people attaining their teaching credential in theater, and people who also are already teachers who are adding their theater credential at a university level. And my history of teaching artistry is through the performing arts, as a stage director and also as a teaching artist in theater and opera. And so what you're making me wonder about is, what is that dynamic? What is that exchange of ideas? What is that platform that allows us to recreate what we do as teaching artists and invite teachers into that? I don't find teacher education to be this as much as we do this. And so if what we want to model for our students is we do this, then I feel beholden to model this with my teacher candidates. And so you're making me think of the actionable things I do that in those different domains that bridge that, because I'm the bridger metaphor girl too. So it's so much fun to think about. And what I appreciate about this conversation, it's requiring me to be very specific in what it is I do in those different domains. And then, and that's what we do, but to hunker down further about me lifts it up in a different articulation, if you will. Right. So maybe it's a flower and it's got leaves, and we just added more of the lily paddy greeny parts.
I love that.
Under the pretty flowery parts. Okay, so not a visual artist. Gave myself away there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Those
so
are
much.
my thoughts, and thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much for sharing. Yes, one of the biggest reasons why, for me, theater has always resonated so much is like asking questions and just contemplating has been just so incredible. Whether I'm writing a lesson plan and I want to be specific, or writing a book, right? So there's like all these amazing questions. I see Stevie's hand. I see also there are some comments in the chat. I will address those in a little bit. I'll make sure I do. But Stevie, go ahead, and then I'll read the chat.
Hey friends, Stevie here. One of the many lucky teaching artists to work with Maria and really learn a lot from Maria. So here, Florida based, I teach children mindfulness as well as storytelling. And so first of all, I want to thank everybody for sharing, because it's totally, these kind of gatherings have a tendency to kind of almost change the way we think, because we're not so much in our heads. So for our friends that are sharing, I'm totally looking and bouncing off that energy and like, oh, right, you can always look at it this way. So loving the vibe on this. My, in answering the first question, what's the problem you're trying to solve for people through your teaching artistry? I wrote down children and families becoming aware of their emotions and better managing them through art, creativity, and mindfulness. And then for the second half of that, I drew a picture, and it was just an image. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's just an image of a bunch of kids kind of gathered around.
It's a little blurry, so
I know. I'm sorry, friends. I'm sorry. Hold on.
We can imagine.
Hold on. You can imagine. It's just a drawing of a bunch of little kids right here gathered in meditative state. It's just their heads. I just kept picturing during the meditation all of these little heads, all these girls and boys and different backgrounds, different clothes on, and just with all of their stuff, headphones or however you see them in the world, and them just meditating or praying or closing their eyes, but breathing and being calm. And so that, I want to thank you for just kind of bringing that out. That I felt like that actually was more of hit me harder than the actual writing stuff down. Just that image just kept coming back and back. So just thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Thank you for talking about it. And I know I'm talking, I already know some more information that people don't know, but I know that what you do and what you just mentioned, it's coming up soon. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I know you're writing. So that is so exciting. And you mentioned something, Stevie, I wanna touch upon that. You said like all these, it was the image that came to you first in the mind. So, all of those exercises that we do when we sit and we imagine, where we think about it first, I mean, that's already writing, right? It's that beginning. And as teaching artists, sometimes teachers come to us and they're like, they don't see their students as writers, or when we are bringing that to the classroom through exercises, but just that's almost like it's the pre-writing that's already happening, right? Wow. If you want to call it something specifically, it's happening. So this process of imagining all of that, later I'll talk a little bit about just the process of my book, from when I sat down to write until publishing, but this pre-writing phase was happening for a long time, right? We are in this, imagination is just so powerful. I see Dab also has a hand up, and I just want to make sure I read the comments on the chat first quickly, Dab, and I'll be right with you. So here we have Christopher, problem to solve: opening mind frames structured by others with, there's something in front of it, with your agreement, and to find creative freedom. Ooh, that is so beautiful. I would love to know more about that. So exciting. And then my free flow response: the magic of being alive, the power of your own ideas in rehearsal, excitement of being together in community, sharing thoughts, birthing new ideas together with other people, being free to share themselves, note differences, move away from judgment, and towards being awakened and maybe excited by different perspectives. Ooh, I love this as well. Thank you so much for writing in there. If you wanted to add more, please add more. Deb, let's hear from you.
Unmute.
Hi.
Here I am. Lower my hand. Oh, so I also am from Sarasota, Florida, and am a a teaching artist, and I've gone from college to high school to middle school, and now my specialty is pre-K through fifth. And where I'm at right now is arts integration. So I'm teaching a core subject with movement, with dance is my thing. And what I want to solve is I want to make learning joyous and fun. And when I teach math to little ones and I watch them try to solve the problem, 2 + 2, and show me the solution with their bodies and they're with a partner, they're so excited and having so much fun. And that's everything for me. When I can make learning fun, that they just want to keep going and doing it. And what I'm hoping is to inspire teachers to see how simple it is to make learning fun, because they'll always say to me, I never thought of doing that. And to me, I'm thinking, really? That was so simple, but they're not thinking that way. And opening that door for them is so important, that they learn there's so many ways they can teach core subjects.
That I hear, sounds like a book, Making Learning Fun.
That's it.
That's a wonderful, wonderful comment and thought. Thank you so much. And thank you for adding more to the chat here. Unlocking creativity, imagination, vulnerability, giving participants permission to play and fail. All of these are just fantastic. I could, like, as a teaching artist, I could just spend a whole hour just continuing talking to you about all of this. So thank you all for commenting. This, yes, experience of joy in PDs and coaching, absolutely, all of these. So the idea behind this exercise is just to give you an experience that I also, I went through as I even thought about, like, what do I have to write about, right? Who am I to write a book? And all of those imposter syndromes we sometimes get. And what do I have to say? But I have, we all have our passions and things we want to do for the world, to make the world better and improve the world. And let me tell you, by hearing all of you right now, teaching artists are heroes, right? Teaching artists are heroes, and we are heroes in our own lives, in our own hero's journey, as you can read more about in this book. So just to briefly, I'm looking at our time here. I just want to briefly talk about my process of writing, and then I want to bring in here to the conversation Jason Cannon. So in terms of the writing, I just I always find that fascinating, because I get this question a lot of, like, how long did it take you to write a book? And all of these things, sometimes people are curious whether you are or not. So as I mentioned, the ideas and the thoughts had been in my mind for a while. As I started teaching, people were like, do you have a book? Do you have a book? My answer automatically was, not yet, not yet. I've always had that, not yet. And just by working with those ideas and thoughts, and then I'll mention how Jason came into the picture. But my actual writing process, from then sitting down, writing my first draft to publishing, was about a year. And that's because we still had to deal with a hurricane in Florida, and I have kids, and I was busy teaching and all of those things. So, it's been a joyful process, and I didn't force anything. And I was just so happy. And that's the moment I really want to bring you, Jason, now, if you can show up. So Jason Cannon is I will let him introduce a little bit more about him and Ivy's books. So I didn't self-publish. I had the pleasure and the opportunity and the privilege to work with Jason. We met each other through, and actually, let me just put his website here up. So Ivy's books published my book, and Jason was not only my publisher and the editor, but also served as that writing coach for me. As I mentioned, writing, I can definitely put ideas on the paper, right? But I was writing not in my first language too, and I needed definitely other people's eyes in there. But also, more importantly, Jason has a theater background, but not necessarily Ayurveda or meditation. And so for him to be asking me questions, and one of the things I really appreciated that Jason pushed me a lot, and in terms of my writing, I didn't really want to talk so much about me. I'm not the kind of person who likes to talk about myself, But he wanted to ask, he was like, we need to know how you have used this in your life. You need to have some personal stories and narratives, how you applied this in your own life. And that is a piece that, you know, if anybody has written before, it makes you feel really vulnerable. You're not playing a character here. It's you, and people are going to read about it. So, but I really appreciate going through this with you, Jason. And I would love for you to just now take over, share a little bit about publishing and what you've uncovered in the last couple of years in this field as well that you can add to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Yeah, I know I'm seeing our time getting tight here, so I'll accelerate. So my background, as Maria mentioned, I was a theater professional 25 years, actor, director, playwright, teacher, producer. Still dabble with theater, but during lockdown kind of pivoted. I'd always wanted to write a book, never had the time. Suddenly had all this time and wrote a book and kind of went on a really quick, steep learning curve on publishing. There's the whole kind of top-down traditional publishing with an agent, all that stuff. But what I was discovering is that the self-publishing model is just blowing up. And between those two extremes, there's where I now position myself as a little independent imprint. All right, now, for all of you as teaching artists, I love what Maria said. You're all already writing all the time. So much of what went into Maria's book was stuff she knows inside out. And I would encourage all of you, having a book, it's strange. It creates such an authority. It gives you such kind of extra aesthetic weight. You know, it's something that's so tangible. It's this focal point you can leave behind with teachers or clients or principals or whoever. I would advocate very strongly for any of you who build curriculum or who want to step out from just a classroom maybe to conferences or workshops, that the book becomes an amazing tool of leverage. And to Maria's point, it's not actually as difficult as you think. Now, whether you self-publish, which you could get help with that, there's all kinds of ways to get help with that, or come to someone like me or other small imprints that would do that publishing stuff for you. I just have a couple little quick tips. One, Maria said it took her a year, as she mentioned, between kids and work and the hurricane. But if you put your nose to it and pull from what you already know, we're not talking a 90,000 word, 400-page book here. We're talking 30 to 50,000 words, 150 to 200 pages. That's plenty. What I come across in my ghostwriting all the time, especially with business clients, is that they want to stuff every piece of wisdom they have into one book, turn it into their opus, you know. But if you check out the lane that teaching artists and business books and inspirational books live in, they're all thin. They're all pocket size. They're easily digestible. And you build a brand, and instead of writing one book, you write 5, and you get what we call click through or buy through. And you're not just selling one book now, where if you want to do a second edition, you have to edit 90,000 words. You're editing 20 or 30,000 words, right? And you can keep cranking out books, which only again builds your authority, builds your ability to leverage your knowledge in multiple directions. I have a client I just finished a business book with, who she is now going to be, and Maria's talking about doing this, taking her core idea and then shifting a slight rewrite towards teachers, towards marketing people, towards medical professionals, right? It's the same core book, but with just a few hours of work, tweaking some of the language and the slight bit of approach, suddenly she's got targeted books for different universes. And Maria's talking about doing the same thing, you know, protagonists for teachers, protagonists for parents, be the protagonist parent, whatever, right? It just becomes a really powerful tool to magnify your teaching. Now, again, if you put your nose down and do it hard, do it daily. The practice has to be daily. You could publish a book within 2 months. No joke. Not kidding. It takes the time and the commitment. But with if you could commit 2 hours a day, not kidding, you could have your book up on Amazon within 2 months. That's the accessibility that the self-publishing small imprint world is giving to people like us, right? I've been a teaching artist for years too, and I have my own anthem that I published, and I'm leveraging that into a podcast. And it's just amazing how the side benefit is that by forcing yourself to create the book, You're listening to yourself through the ears of someone else.
Mhm.
This is what Marie was talking about with the vulnerability, right? I know all of you have experienced this. You learn something way better and more intimately when you have to teach it than when you receive it for the first time, right? If you're going to step in front of everybody and say you're the expert, you got to know it inside out. So if you're going to put your book out there, think of how much concentration and focus went into creating that book. Now you're even beyond where you were as an expert, right? And now by having to force yourself to put yourself into the shoes of a reader, it's less about just being vulnerable, as Maria said, and more about, no, I have value. What I have been through, what I know, this should be a book. And it's not about ego, but it's about owning your experience and understanding that the same way you want to ask all the people that you're teaching, hey, share with me, share with me, share with me what we just did as a group, sharing those things. That was easy, right? That was fun. That we connected. And book writing process is the same, I would argue. It's very simple. So I know we're at time. I'm going to put a little thing here in the chat box. This is a little coupon code. If you go to the bookstore and order the ebook of Maria's book, it'll knock 25% off for you. That's good through Friday. That's just for you all. That's just for you. That's not public. That's just for you.
Valentine's gifts. To
Happy Valentine's. The book is already pretty accessible, especially the online, the ebook. So if you want to read a little bit more, and you can download it instantly, which is, you can start reading.
For paper, you can also just get it on Amazon and it'll come right to your door. You can get it there. And if you want to talk to like me, if I also coach and do publishing and stuff like that, I'm just going to put this.
And
that's my email. So if you want to kind of follow the path Maria went, I'm always taking new clients too. Whether it's just you need advice on how to self-publish, or if you actually want to kind of look. I mean, my little imprint is kind of by happenstance turned into. I focus on memoirs and inspirational books a lot, and it's really satisfying. And especially, I mean, seeing Maria get up at the book launch in her orange dress and read the excerpt in front of everybody, and there's wine and cheese, and everyone's clapping. And there was the 10-year-old kid who asked, "Can you explain Ayurveda to me?" Oh my gosh! I mean, this. There's nothing better.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And it's so true. And I will say this, if it wasn't for me, just even thinking about this idea of self-publishing, if I had not had met Jason or had this opportunity, I think I might have not yet been in where I am in terms of having a book. His expertise, questions, presence, coaching was really important. We know with teaching artists, sometimes we coach teachers, right? We know how coaching is so important, like how a teacher can go from one level to another in a year. Like it's different than just doing professional development with a lot of teachers. But if you're able to coach teachers one-on-one, you see how much they can grow. And that's been the experience for me, having Jason to coach me as a writer as well. It's been phenomenal. Yes, I am already writing the second book. I'm translating my books. I am doing all of the other things, writing a one-woman show, writing a kids version, which my daughter will illustrate. And so all of these things, just like I'm enjoying playing the role now, and I'm going to have fun with it. So we have 8 minutes left. Carrie, I'm just going to pass it to you because I don't know if you want to moderate some questions or...
Yeah, well, first, I just want to thank Jason so much for the tips and also the code and just the call to action and like the sharing of that. If you commit to it, like you can get it done. And that I think for teaching artists, it is a very singular career sometimes, like with a writer, and that you are an editor, that you're a self-publisher, and that it seems that there's this collaboration between you and Maria. I wonder, is that usual when writing partners, like with the editor, or how? What would you define your role as an editor within that, or the characteristics in working?
I have found that editing a writer feels incredibly similar to directing an actor. They feel so similar in my body, in my brain. The language I use is the same. The prompts, Marie said, the pushing, right? As a director, I create a safe room so the actor can get really vulnerable. Same thing with the writer. I have to say, hey, I'm doing great. This isn't good enough.
Mhm.
Or where's the personal story? Or the structure's not working yet, right? But it's not a judgment. It's a let's make the book sing, right? The same way I'd say to an actor, let's get this, it's there, it's fine. It's not exquisite yet, right? So it's very much the same process. It's curating, it's chipping away, it's clarifying. So artistically, the coaching aspect of the editorial side of things feels very much, I heard several of you talk about theater, it feels very much like directing.
Oh, yes, I love it. I think it rings true. I see a lot of head nods. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I'm going to keep Maria on. I have a few more questions for her, but we appreciate the code and you showing up and sharing. I learned so much, and it's kind of lit a fire under me to be like, all right, 2 months. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's the residency. All right. So thank you, Jason.
Awesome. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Maria. So I know you're a teaching artist, and I do want to just share one thing from your book that really rang true to me is where you name that as one of the roles. So part of Maria's book is that there are these incredible exercises, meditations listed out that you can also print. And it feels like there's like these lesson plans already imprinted and writing exercises. So it's a very active read, I would say. But what you've said about teaching artists on page 110 is, as a teaching artist, I am committed to constantly improving my skills by seeking feedback, reflecting on my practices, and continuing to learn. This involves attending workshops and conferences, reading, and taking part in online learning communities. I also strive to create a positive and inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and supported. And I think with your writing exercise that you just gave us about solving the problem, we can now answer our own mission statement as a teaching artist. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Question and for writing this book and providing a code. I'm really curious, with your experience of teaching artistry in all these different roles, you do talk a lot about meditation and stress, and you brought up living in Florida and all the different roles that you have as being a parent, dealing with your region. And there's a quote that I love in your book saying, "We are not human doings, we are human beings." And there's mantras and how mantras can give you something to do while you're meditating that can feel really passive to quiet the mind. So I wonder, what kind of tools do you find make your teaching artist work better? Yeah.
Well, my teaching artistry was absolutely enriched by both Ayurveda and meditation, right? I mean, theater has been my craft, my art form, and I talk about in the book also theater is my yoga, has always been my yoga. It's also my martial art, and all of those things. But those brought different aspects for me to observe other things. As a teaching artist, when I go inside a classroom and I'm able to just take on the role of the observer, but at the same time as the player, right? As I'm interacting with people, it's been fantastic in so many ways. In my own understanding of where I am, but also my aspirations of where I want to be, or just that evolution, and how I'm a part of the group when I'm with a group, and if whether I'm working with kids or adults, these tools have been incredible. But I will say this: the art of being the protagonist, or the art of being your best teaching artist self, could have been through the intersection of many different things, right? I chose, because these are part of my life, Ayurveda, meditation, theater for this book. But I could easily, if I had a different thing, I could say, be the protagonist, how, and then I'll choose, I don't know, maybe it's a sport, a team sport, maybe it's something else that I do, or a different art form, how all of these other things can also help transform your life, your teaching artistry, or help you become the protagonist. These are definitely tools. For me, another enriching tool has been to just find always, like, in this idea of, like, how can I be inclusive and welcoming, in understanding people. I mean, being from another culture, speaking another language, I naturally think that way. I was naturally always in the role of the observer when I moved here, as I'm trying to understand and navigate a new culture and language. But for me, that's also language, and just like, you know, art is a language. But actual, even other, like, can I, as a teaching artist, can I learn words in other languages? Or even like Deb is here. We talked a lot about how in the past of how, you know, especially for theater, like I already do a lot of gestures and facial expressions, and I'm like, silent language, I need to add that to my tool as a teaching artist, and just like, it's so expressive and all of these things. Whatever it is for you, who do you work with? What, like, your audience? Maybe it's the age range. What's your medium, and your goals, your why as a teaching artist, right? How you're trying to enrich people's lives. That's when you will then figure out, I'm like, maybe there are these tools I need to learn or add to my toolbox, so I can do that. So that's then later the action steps towards that. How can I enrich life? How do you want to enrich the lives of people? So I hope I answered.
Absolutely did. All right. I know we are at the hour, so I'm just going to end the recording. I'm going to add something into the chat so that if you do have to leave us, please fill out our feedback form. It's really helpful for us here at the Teaching Artists Guild to know who's attended our workshops and what they learned from, or if they enjoyed it, what we can improve on. And I also want to share that we have 2 more literary salons coming up. So we have next week with Elise May. That will be February 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then on the 23rd, our last literary salon is with Eric Booth on the 23rd. I'm going to put a little promo code in the chat so that you can sign up for those tickets for free, and please share with your colleagues. Those will also be recorded so you can watch them back on our YouTube channel. Just another round of applause to Maria. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Being
If you want to
here.
reach out, my email is right there. If you want to continue the conversation. Thank you, Carrie, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for being here.